Hi, welcome to Reddit Lane. It's time for our weekly recap of Love After Lockup, Season 5, Episode 34. How mentally stable are you? Which is actually a question we should be asking all of the cast members. But let's get started with Shantae and True. So this week, Shantae and True have now been living together for 2 days. They've been arguing back and forth, and Shantae has now asked True, bottom line, do you want to be in a committed relationship? Do you want to just be friends? Do you want to be engaged? Do you want to date me and just build up to something else? What do you really want from me? And True, drum roll please, does not want to be engaged to Shantae any longer. He does not want to be in a relationship or a committed relationship, an exclusive committed relationship with her. Basically, he wants to date. And I can't necessarily fault him for being honest with her and upfront and letting her know, hey, I don't want to be in an exclusive relationship. He could have lied and cheated, but he chose not to. He was as honest as he could be. He said that he didn't want to hurt her feelings. And so I don't think that he was just straight up like, okay, I really just don't want to be in a relationship. I just want to date, because he kind of backtracked a little bit to say, yes, I want to be with you. We're still going to be together. I'm still going to spend the night here. I'm still going to sleep with you. But basically, he wants to date other people, or he wants to do what he wants to do. Like, he doesn't want to have to answer to her for anything. And I think that was one of his big problems, was that he felt like he had to answer to Shantae, and, she would ask him where he was, or he would have to tell her what he was doing. And he thinks that that really isn't being free. Like, he's out and he's free. And by having to be responsible and a responsible adult and answer to the person that you live with who's helping you, he didn't want to do any of that. And so he let her know up front, okay, this is not something that I want to be a part of. And of course, Shantae was heartbroken by this. It was really sad to watch. She cried, she went outside, and she didn't do it in front of him. She put on a brave face and she was just kind of like, okay, I'm cool with that. It's fine. It's whatever. But then she went outside to give her confessional and she broke down. She basically said that she felt like True played her. And, I don't think that she expected, I think she kind of knew that his answer would be that he didn't want to be in an exclusive relationship. But in her heart, she was really, really hoping that he would want to be with her and want to stay engaged to her. So shortly thereafter, True leaves and goes with his sister to the gym. And when he arrives at the gym, he finds out that Tisha, the person that he had been talking to while he was in prison, or that he was supposed to talk to while he was in prison. Somehow, this person he was supposed to meet up with, she was meeting them at the gym as well. So this will be somebody I'm guessing that he may like or he may date. We'll see what happens. I'm really sad for Shantae though. Yeah. So let's move on to Zeruya and Troy. So Zeruya and Troy this week, we see them post coitus. And Zeruya was happy to find out that Troy was, in her words, well endowed. So she was very, very pleased and very happy with what Troy was working with. So we're relieved for Zeruya to find that out. We're relieved that Troy will not have to have the penis implant because he's good enough for her. So she was happy with that. However, she does have another surprise for him, and that is she has arranged a meeting, or I guess a visit from his estranged mother. And Troy is not on board with this. Basically, this is something that she probably should have talked to Troy about before she set up, but she didn't. She's taken charge and she's like, I basically want to make sure that he has a good relationship with his mother. And so she arranged a visit from his mom, and Troy is going to go and pick the mother up later that evening. So they leave from the hotel room and go back to her house where they meet her son. Well, I say her son, but since Troy adopted him, it's actually his son. So he goes to meet his son, his 11-year-old son, and he's really, really cute. He's so excited to see Troy. He's happy about his gift, and he's just elated to have two parents, right? Like, he's just really, really excited to see Troy there. But Troy is happy to see the son, but he's still apprehensive about going to meet up with his mother. So the backstory for Troy and his mom is that Troy's mother dropped Troy off at her friend's house when Troy was about 2 or 3 years old, and she didn't come back to pick him up. he ended up, bouncing in and out of foster homes and eventually went with his father. But from what Troy says, he was never back with his mom. And his mom never visited him the entire time, the 4 years that he was in prison. So his relationship with her is estranged. And he's not quite sure if he's ready. Like, it's a lot of emotions that he's going through, having to, deal with his mom. So he goes to meet up with the mom, and the mom, I wondered initially, and I think I said this on another video, I wondered where she was and why she wasn't at the release. And I guess that's why, because they don't have a relationship at all. So she met up with her son, and you can kind of tell the relationship is strained. It was a good reunion. She cried. She was very happy to see him. He had a lot of questions. You can tell, that he was happy to see his mother, but you can also tell that there was some resentment probably there because of, things that they had going on in their past. But we'll see what happens on next week's episode, once she's been in the house and she's staying with him. You never know about somebody until you have to kind of live with them or stay with them. So the initial meeting is one thing, but then once they're actually having to stay together, we'll see how that goes. So next we have Kim and Joey. So Kim and Joey, I think Joey was actually released last week. So Kim and Joey go on what they call their first real date. So I guess they had, slept together previously, hung out before, but this is actually the real date. So they go out for a date and they're eating their meal. They kind of go back and forth, kind of talking about, whose ex is trying to break up the relationship. And, they have this whole small town gossip thing going on between the two of them. I kind of like Kim. I actually watched Kiki and Kibitz's interview with her. And so I got a little bit of the backstory, with Kim and how she got on the show and, her thought process and what she was doing and, how much she really kind of liked Joey. And it was a really good interview, just to kind of get an understanding of what she was thinking. I think even watching her interview or watching any of the backstories from Shantae and True or Leticia, it's always, you see what they put on the show, and a lot of stuff is edited to make it seem a certain way just to, add some drama to it. But in real life, things are a little bit different. And I kind of saw that in watching the interview with Kim and Joey. But back to what happened on the show. They then go back to their, what he calls the hood cabin. And when they get to the hood cabin, of course, they sleep together, right? And they come back and they talk about how wonderful the sex is because, Joey always, makes sure that, Kim is totally satisfied. And they just have this whole situation where they just talk about each other and how wonderful the sex is with each other. Joey also mentions that, Kim may be pregnant now because he doesn't use protection. And I'd like to note that he also said that he never uses protection, which, I would think that Kim would have been more like Zeruya in having Joey checked out prior to sleeping with him. Because if this man is a known drug addict or, was a drug addict, was cheating in his relationship with Kim, I would think that this is somebody that you want to have tested prior to sleeping with him if he never uses protection. But that's just me. I don't know. So anyway, they leave the cabin and they go to buy Christmas gifts for the kids. They stop at a store so that Joey can buy some Christmas gifts. He just takes Kim's card, like she's the sugar mama, and goes in to buy, Christmas gifts for the kids. He comes back out and he spent over $300 on these gifts. And Kim is like, why would you spend so much money? I make $15 an hour. I don't have it like that. This is just okay for you. But it's Christmas, so they're all jolly and happy talking about it. They're good to go. They get to the house, they have Christmas with the kids, they wear their matching pajamas, and they celebrate Christmas, and all is good in Joey and Kim land. So next, we're going to go to our newest couple that we have not seen before, Bianca and Daniel. So Bianca is 23 years old, and she's unemployed. Daniel's 31. He's in prison for DUI and burglary, and he's been in prison for 4 years. They've been together for 8 months. And a bit of backstory on Bianca. They met as part of the prison pen pal, whatever it is. I don't know. They have a pen pal thing where she reached out because Bianca, I think 9 months prior, had been in a horrible car accident where she and a friend were out drinking and she didn't realize that the friend was drunk. And she asked the friend to drive her home. The friend goes to drive her home, and in route to getting to the house, since the friend is drunk, they run into a concrete wall. She had and I have to remember from my notes, she fractured her back, she fractured her neck, and then her back broke something in her back. And she wasn't able to speak for 3 months. And she has like a scar on her neck. You can kind of see the scar there, that she's very self-conscious about. I mean, it's not major. You can kind of see it here. It's not too bad. I think it's something that's going to fade over time, but it's probably fresh. But anyway, she wasn't able to speak for 3 months after that car accident. So because of that car accident, she also received a settlement. So she didn't disclose how much money it was, but it seems like it was a substantial settlement based on how she's spending money now, like the fact that she doesn't have to work. She's gotten an apartment in Arizona for 4 months, a 4-month lease in Arizona for them. She's been sending him money, and she doesn't know how much money she spent. She said it could be $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So we're going to just say maybe $7,000. But she has a substantial amount of money, and Daniel does know about this. And she's told him, this money is for us to live on. But I kind of get the feeling that Daniel may be using her for her money. I don't know. Maybe it's the age difference, her being 23, him being 31. He's a criminal. She's very, very young and naive, it feels like. But anyway, so after being in that accident, she wanted to talk to someone or have a pen pal with a prisoner who was also in prison for a DUI. And that's how she met Daniel. So she reached out with someone to kind of talk to them. She thought it was someone that she could relate to because he had a DUI. She had been in an accident with someone, who had a DUI. So this was her way of dealing with this. It's weird. Their relationship kind of reminds me of a previous couple on Love After Lockup. I don't know if you guys remember, but it's the girl with the hair, the split down the middle. I don't know. Tell me in the chat if you remember what her name was, but that's kind of who she reminds me of. When she had a settlement as well, and that person was using her for her money. And that's the vibes I get here from Daniel. Her parents are divorced, and she's been living on her own, and she's now planning on moving to Arizona so that she can be there for his release and make sure and basically take care of him. So she has a friend of hers, and she and the friend are talking about Daniel and their relationship. And one of the things that the friend said is that, because Daniel has a history of drug abuse and alcohol abuse, when you go down there, you probably aren't going to be able to drink. And Bianca says, well, I'm young and I don't have a problem with alcohol. I'm going to drink if I want to. And he said to her, like, well, you do realize that you could put him in a bad situation if you're drinking around him and he's supposed to be sober. And she's like, no, he should be able to deal with it. He's a changed person and he should be fine. And it's like, okay, what you don't realize is, and maybe it's just me, but she's 23 years old. And I get it. Like, some younger people probably think that an older person knows better, they, do the right thing. But I think a lot of times young people don't realize that older people sometimes don't have it together. Just because this man is 31 years old doesn't mean that he's doing the right thing and he can lead you in the right direction. Like, it's just the opposite. I think he's going to lead you down a bad path. Like, I'd be very, very cautious. She doesn't seem to have any parental guidance. Her friends are there and they're trying to give her some sort of guidance here, but I don't know how much she's actually taken in. Like, I'm really scared for her in this situation. So anyway, she does talk to his mom. His mom calls her, and, she says that, also expresses the fact that, Bianca, if you love him and you care about him, you're probably not going to drink either. So the mom is thinking the same thing, but she's just out the window with that. She's like, okay, whatever. I'm going to drink because that's what I want to do. So we'll see how that works out. Daniel is previously married. He does have a 13-year-old son. So if she does marry him, she will be a stepmother. So her friend also asked, like, hey, are you going to be okay with being a stepmom? And she's kind of like, yeah. But I mean, they've only been together, I want to say, is it 4 months? So her accident happened like 8 or 9 months ago from that time. So it's only been a matter of months. It's less than a year, definitely. So I don't think she knows him well enough to say what she's ready for if she wants to be like married to this person. But we'll see where that ends up. But anyway, on the phone with her mom, with Daniel's mom in Arizona, the dad, she says, to the dad who's sitting there, do you want to say hi to Daniel's dad? And she's like, yeah. So the dad gets there, and that's when the statement comes up. How mentally stable are you? So she took it as, she took offense to it, like, oh, he thinks something's wrong with me. But I took it as this man probably thinks that either number one, he's used to being with crazy women in the past, and so something must be wrong with you too. Or number two, knowing that this man is in prison and given the situation, something must be wrong with you to be with him in this situation. I don't know. I think it, is the dad probably is looking out for you and asking you that question, like, are you crazy? Is something wrong here? But we'll see what happens. And last but not least, we have Leticia and Keith. Now, Leticia and Keith didn't have much of a storyline this week. You guys know that we talked about last week the fact that I did not think that Keith was getting out based on some information I got from my old source, Reddit, right? So when we looked that up, we saw that Keith's release date was not anytime soon. So we're thinking that he did not get the immediately release that she thought of. So this week, she has a friend who walks up to her house, and there's a pink notice on the door that the sheriff wants her to call them, which is really weird to me. I don't know. The sheriff has never come to my home, so I don't know if this is what they normally do. But I always thought a pink notice on your door was something like they were cutting your utilities off or something to that effect. But apparently not. This pink notice was letting her know that she needs to call the sheriff's department. And so she gets the notice, she calls the sheriff, and basically the sheriff is saying to her, we see that your paralegal or your attorney has filed the paperwork, but Keith's case does not qualify for the immediate release based on whatever law had been overturned or whatever it was to get him out. And so she's really upset about this. She's paid the paralegal $1,000. She's filed the paperwork. She doesn't understand why it didn't go through and what could have stopped it. So we didn't get to see her actually talk to the attorney this week to find out what happened there. All we see is that she gets the bad news that he is not eligible for immediate release. And she's really upset about this. So we'll see what happens next week. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe.